Okay, good morning everybody. Sorry for this short delay. We got the slides up. So I'm Baumann. I've been working at Macquarie University for a long time, actually for 14 years. Oh Lord. Time to retire? Not yet. Time to get promoted, I'd say. Time to get promoted and cash in. So I want to talk a tiny bit about marketing, and I think you might have my stuff as a PDF file, or you might not. Doesn't sound like you've got it. Okay, you haven't missed much. Right now you're probably thinking, I'm not so curious about marketing, but I want to know, where is this guy from? Am I right? I think I might be right. So, before we talk about that, welcome to Macquarie University. You've come to a good place. We are probably increasingly focusing on research at Macquarie University. And if you look at the rankings of universities around the world, including Australia, but also Asia and the United States and so forth, I think the really top elite schools are the ones that focus quite a lot on research. Doesn't mean that we neglect teaching, of course, but Macquarie University has opened its own hospital and clinic not long ago, so we now focus on medical research as well. We got a brand new library, so if you're from a school close by, who's actually from a school close by? Show of hands. Quite a lot of you guys. Partner schools? Okay, if you're close by, come for a cup of coffee at the library. If you're from far away, still swing by for a cup of coffee at the library. Yeah, don't worry, that's worth the trip, mate. And you might also find an interesting book occasionally. So, when you get here, actually we have our own train station. So I'm going to use this pointer here, but you probably get it anyway. So this is our Macquarie University. We are probably the only university in Australia that has got its own train station. So when you do that 1.5 hour journey, take the train and then just jump off the train here. So, presenter. Where's this guy from? Doesn't sound Aussie just yet, right? Russian, no mate, far off. Far off! What's that? Switzerland, that's of course the Matterhorn. Anyone likes Toblerone? Toblerone, yeah, good on you. So the shape of the Toblerone is of course based on this mountain, which is bordering France as well. So it's in the south of the country, but if you ever want to go for study abroad and your parents want to sponsor you, then why don't you consider Europe as well. So I'm originally from Switzerland. And then I'm delighted because I can see iced coffee. I'm a bit addicted to coffee, I must confess, so that's good news. So I haven't woken up just yet. Thank you. How is that for service? You know, you really got to come to Macquarie University, I can tell you. The service here is just fantastic. Thanks very much, Dennis. That's much appreciated. So, after my studies in Europe, I decided it's time to go somewhere else. And even when I was a teenager, probably like at your age, actually I went to school in Canada. I went to school in Vancouver, which is in beautiful British Columbia. And after I did my studies in Europe, then I decided to do my master's also back in Canada. So I went back to Vancouver to do my master's degree. So if you feel my accent, it's kind of European, kind of Canadian, maybe 5% Aussie. The Canadian dates back to my time in Vancouver. But it gets pretty chilly in Canada. There's a lot of rain in November, October. A lot of snow, so it gets pretty cold, so I decided time to move on yet again. And of course I came to Sydney in December 2000 and have never looked back. So look, before we talk about marketing, let me give you some inspiration for what it's worth. You're about to finish school. What year are you guys actually in now? Is this year 11? 10 to 12, okay. Wow. Who's in year 12 and about to get out of here, out of school? Wow, okay, good luck guys. Yay, that's the spirit. You can do it, I know. So, you know, when you get out of school, I think in probably your parents' generation, you get out of school and you work maybe for just one firm. You start when you're 18 and you retire when you're 65 and you get a gold watch and you've essentially experienced only one brand. For you, I don't believe that's gonna happen. In my own modest case, I've worked for a Swiss bank, which is Zürcher Kantonalbank. I've studied in Zurich, yet another brand. I've been to the Swiss Army. You guys are kind of lucky if you're a guy. If you're a boy in Switzerland, when you turn 20, there's actually no choice. You have to serve and you have to go for basic training, which means at 2 in the morning you get woken up for a nice walk in the cold forest. So that's that's kind of the spirit. So you guys are lucky, you don't have to do any of the above, but at the same time it's also interesting experience, of course. And then also, so then you will probably also experience in your own lifetime that you might be studying for at more than one university. Hopefully the first point of contact would be Macquarie University, but you might be doing a master's and a doctorate later on. In my case, Simon Fraser in Canada, now of course Macquarie, and also I'm a visiting professor at Seoul National University in South Korea. Has anyone ever been to South Korea? Or is anybody from Korea? Yeah. Nobody? Okay, so you're from Korea. 안녕하세요. I know my pronunciation is terrible. I've actually, this mouse doesn't really work, but that's okay. No mouse works here. Actually, maybe I should use this one, huh? So, I've commented on this. This is the internet. This is actually just to brag, to show that I'm actually on Google. And I know the photos are quite shocking. But if you go to the conversation, then you will see there's actually a few articles. There you go, I know you like that one. That's the spirit. So I've commented on this free trade agreement between Australia and Korea. And if you read it, I think Tony mentioned a few interesting points. We're probably at an interesting stage. With the previous, and I'll talk about this later, we have to think very carefully. You're the next generation, really. I don't think I'll be affected as tremendously as you might be, really, but I think the ball game has changed quite a lot. And you guys will definitely be affected in terms of education, in terms of your careers, and so forth. So that is my modest contribution, but that's really not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about some research, if I may. So I'm not sure, because you guys are going to do this competition, right? So this is probably where you want to take some notes. Did you guys actually get the PDF or no? Just take notes for however, in whatever fashion you want. Wow, this is good coffee. Oh Lord. So, I think the topic for you, and I've changed my slides because I know Tony works for a charity organization. I think that's a fantastic thing to do, because sometimes I feel at the university we're really lucky in many ways, right? We're lucky to be at the university. A lot of people are not quite as fortunate. They might have had a bit of tough luck in life, and that can happen too, or things haven't just gone the right way, and all of a sudden we get into trouble. And while I'm a believer in some form of competitiveness, I'm also a firm believer that the ones that are lucky and fortunate should really look after the people that were less fortunate, really. So, the topic I want to talk about now is gift giving. I have reflected a tiny bit on your behalf, really. What does the literature tell us? Why people give a gift? And let me ask you, as a starting point, I don't know why I chose this photo really. Have you ever been in a situation where you were given a present and you didn't actually feel quite comfortable? Has anyone ever experienced? What happened? Can you talk about your experience briefly?
I don't know, they just gave me a gift out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt really weird accepting it.
Exactly. That's a good point. So it's out of nowhere, you don't really know why am I getting this gift. Anyone else ever had experience that you got a gift and you felt, ooh, what's going on here? Anyone else? I think the reason why I'm asking this question is gift giving is quite complex if you think about it. There's actually somebody that's going to give the gift, and there's also somebody that's going to receive the gift, right? So there's probably at least two parties involved. You don't really give a gift to yourself, right? Unless you really have a pretty sad life. you go shopping after school and you buy yourself a gift, really. But normally you buy it for somebody else, really. And for example, if you look at this picture, this person looks kind of surprised, doesn't she? Alright? This could actually mean, what could this mean? This could mean, look, I really love you, and here is my gift for you, right? Whoa, this is good news. Or this could also be, I've had enough. We had a good time, but I'm going to move on. This is my favorite precious stuff. That's really depressing. But let's move on. That's too depressing. So why do we give, right? Why do we actually give? Why do we give a present? And people have looked at this. There's a study in 1990 that was published which looked at motivation for gift giving. So why do we give, right? So people have thought of three different reasons. The first one is actually the most noble one, right? You give a present out of altruism, meaning it's not really for you. You really want to give joy to the person. So, for example, if I think of the food bank, if I feel, look, I really feel these people have gotten a rough ride, and it's not about me, it's really about them. And I'm on an okay salary, and I'm going to donate some money, or I'm going to donate some food or whatever. So I really do it out of a selfless concern for somebody else in our society. The second reason could be what we call compliance with social norms, right? Let's say at school it's somebody's birthday and everybody's going to buy a present, right? But you actually don't like that person very much. Can happen, I suppose, right? Not everybody's always friends. But now everybody says, hey, I'm going to get them chocolates, or I'm going to get them whatever. What are you going to get them? You go, actually, nothing really. So you feel, oh, that's not really right. So out of social norms, you feel I have to comply and I kind of have to give a present. So you feel kind of forced. And the least reason, which is probably not tremendously noble, and that's probably when you felt, the lady at the back, that's probably when you felt a bit uncomfortable, because you feel maybe I'm given a present because this person wants something from me. Right? Is that right? You go, why am I getting this present? Right? This is either far too big, right? If all of a sudden, you know, as, for example, as teachers and lecturers, we are quite under strict law. For example, if I were to accept a car from my students' parents, I could find a new job. Quite likely so, right? Even a cup of coffee. Actually, I paid for that. Can I declare? Can I officially declare? I paid for my own coffee, so this is not any form of bribe. So this is what it's actually all about, right? So people might be getting a present, and you might be thinking, hang on, this feels like not a present for me, but this feels like a present for you, right? So that's what people have been thinking about. And if we want to sum it up, so the reasons, if you want to take a different angle, if you want to look at this through a different lens, then we can also say the reasons for gift giving. That study only just came out, I think, 10 odd years ago, that we actually give presents for altruistic reasons, that goes back to the idea, I want to give you pleasure. I like you, I love you, blah, 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 and I'm thinking about what is going to make you happy. And I buy what I believe makes you happy. So I give you the present over dinner or whatever. But the second reason is actually, and that's new to the previous slide, I might be giving the present for altruistic reasons, meaning I actually want to get pleasure out of this myself, right? And you've probably all had the situation where maybe you give a present to a child, right? And you think the child is going to really love what I've bought for the boy or girl, and you give it to them, and children are more honest than adults, right? Adults who comply, even if you don't like it, we say, well, it's beautiful, thank you so much. But inside you go, what the hell, you know? But a child wouldn't do that. So a child will be honest and will say, oh, okay, thank you, right? And that means now you're disappointed, because actually for any gift-giving transaction you probably have some form of altruistic motivation that you actually want to see the person enjoy the moment, right? So you want to see the smiling face. So when we talk about donation and gift giving, there's probably a lot of psychology going on. Why people give a present or not give a present, or donate money or not donate money, and what we expect in return. So, okay. There's actually some research. Now, if we look at society, for example, also in Australia, we have probably quite a diverse society, and also at your schools, looking around here, there's different cultures that mix in one school, and in one city, and in one country. So, for example, some research I've done myself looked at, this is not yet my own study, this is just a background. I hope this is of interest to you and also for your projects, really. Well, we've looked at the idea of cultural values. So what we just talked about is detached from culture. But quite possibly, the way we behave in terms of gift giving and gift receiving may well be influenced, at least in part, by our cultural background. Now, what comes into play, for example, looking at the Chinese, would be a strong family orientation, right? So, possibly stronger than in Western society would be sense of family, role of mom and dad, and so forth. There's a thing called guanxi, which is about networking, so it's about who you know and who you're connected with. Here's laughing. What is guanxi? You can explain it better than I. Okay. Relations. Yeah, that's right. It's about relationships, right? It's about networking. It's about who you know. That actually impacts also the way you give a gift or not give a gift, right? What is the relationship? Is it your partner? Is it your child? Is it the person that you want to marry, or God knows what? The third bullet point is about one, which is the belief in destiny, right? So people have different beliefs, also different religious beliefs. Why are things happening around us, right? So if you get a really good score in your exam, was that you studying so hard? Was that destiny? Was that driven by something else? People have very different views on this. We don't have to go about, but you might want to think about this for your projects. There's also the importance of saving face, right? So, for example, in Chinese culture, in Asian culture in general, you have to make sure that you don't lose face. So, in Western cultures, communication is often much more direct, right? So if you don't agree, you would say, look, screw that one kind of thing, right? In Asian society, it's not really the case. You have to be much more subtle. So you would say, oh, yeah, it's good, but I don't like it tremendously much. So you have to kind of factor those elements in. And the last point is about reciprocal obligations. So when it comes to gift giving, people might well give a gift in any society because they really want something in return. Now you can think for yourselves what people want in return when they donate money. Now, are you guys still with me? Yes.